So we've learned a lot from the last couple of days here. We had the Sharks Dogs. I've got the Storm Knights here, the Warriors and the Dolphins. I'm going to go through. They're the three games that I have watched clearly so far. The others I've just seen bits and pieces of, scores and the like. So I'm going to watch them up until the trials today, watch all those, and then hopefully either tonight, guys, or tomorrow morning, I'll get out that second lot of games. And the two games that didn't have really any of the NRL players, any of the relevant players fantasy-wise, I won't be analysing them today, guys. So we're going to kick it off with the Sharks up against the Dogs, 12-6, so a very low-scoring game here. And there were some great performers, and there was a lot of telling signs, especially on that Dogs team, that is for sure. So let's kick it off with the Sharkies there. There's not too much to say on the actual game in general. 12-6, there wasn't a lot of exciting play, let's say that on that point. And obviously the big things to look at, guys, are, sometimes the possession is a good thing to look at in these trial games. The time in possession, so time in play, obviously as well, is helpful. And you can see there 53.5 minutes of time in play. Plenty of drop ball in this one. 15 errors for the Doggies, 13 for the Sharkies there. So, you know what you see when these low completion rates is the defensive stats, the running, the tackling there, the base is usually a lot lower. So that's just something to note as well when you're coming into analyzing these games. So obviously the top performing players, we know the kind of quality that the Cameron McInnes, that was weird to say, Cam McInnes, haven't said that in a long time, displays here 43 tackles in there in that one, and some good run meters. Obviously the Bronson Sherry one is very, very interesting, but two back rowers did a great job fantasy wise. 59 for Teague with a very, very simple try, and a 57 for Preston. And on that try to Teague Wilton there, a lot of people were blaming Hutcho on that one. Hutcho was just marking his man. He was on Trindle at the back there, and Farmasili was marking air on that one. So yeah, look, Hutcho's just getting in the face, so it makes it look a little bit worse, but it was not his man at all. So obviously needs to be a bit more communication, or Poasa needs to get on that man. But anyway, let's go through the Sharkies to kick things off. And guys, we want to be looking at in this game, we're obviously Jesse Ramian in that centre spot. He's probably the third pick at the moment. I'm also not entirely sure that Aitken gets close to that starting role. And even if he does, it's not going to be 80 minutes, in my opinion, unless Felice Kafusi is injured, because Connolly Lemuelu looked great. But we'll get into that shortly. And Ramian, if Aitken wasn't going to be the option, I think he's the second best mid-tier premium kind of guy that you can select in your side. And Ramian picked up 118 meters in this one, which is great because he's someone that can go a bit under that. So you wanted to see him get some good meters, the 3 tackle breaks. And defensively, 13 tackles for 2 misses was awesome as well. Obviously, both teams didn't look amazing in this one, and we will talk about the Wars in a sec, but they looked incredible, and how anyone has them not near their top 4 is absolutely ludicrous. They've gotten better, in my opinion. Look the same, and then have Roger and Kurt Capewell in there as well. So anyway, it's going to be a tough matchup for the Sharkies over there in Warrior Land in that first game. But obviously no Nico Hines in this one, guys, is an important factor to consider as well. So Trindle was one you want to look at. He didn't score very well. 28 fantasy points there. That included a good chunk of kick meters at 432. So he won't be getting that next to Cleary and next to Hines there. And so 28 for him. Not great in this one. Obviously, just the 2 goals. Kicked both of them, which is cool. But no real attacking involvement on this one there at all. Oregon Kafusi, guys, with 34. He looked solid with a nice offload at one point that I saw. Brayley did his job for the game time that he got through. Royce Hunt was their best forward, not even close. Big run meters at 166 with 66 post, but again, not really a fantasy relevant option for us. Teague Wilton with a fairly simple try there, and getting through his work. He's always one of those guys that gets near a 50 average, so good to see him back. Running well after his injury. Very, very short turnaround, obviously, which is good for him. Cam McInnes is the interesting one, guys. So Brayley went off for a bit, and McInnes played some 9. So with Cam there, obviously the good run meters at 120, picks up some tackle breaks, and we know he defensively he's a gun at 43-1. So again, if it looks like Finucane's not there, or if there's chat of him playing bigger than 55 minutes, anyway over that 50 mark, and he's an absolute top tier gun in the 55 to 60 point range. But that's probably the big news for McInnes, is we need that news. So we'll see what happens there. Jack Williams really solid through the middle. Same with Toby Rudolph in the minutes that they played, guys. And if it's something really relevant minutes-wise, I will tell you those minutes, guys. But outside of that, if I haven't mentioned the minutes, it's just a very normal amount and not something of big interest anyway. In this one for us to analyze. We're just more looking at how they're looking, because we know for the most part what type of role these guys are going to get when the round one teams are named. But yeah, not too much further to say on the Sharkies. Kale Iro with 23, he's still second in line for the center positions, that's for sure. And then Tom Hazelton, I just see him making this side very comfortably. 76 run meters for him. Defensively was okay with 23 makes for 4 misses. But probably all we need to say. Jesse Colquhoun obviously got on the bench in this one. Didn't get a hell of a lot of minutes. Obviously 12 fantasy points there and only 8 tackles. So yeah, tackle numbers fairly low apart from McInnes. As always, 43 for him. The next best was 35 with Wilton, who played big minutes, and then Jack Williams with 30. So again, as I said, the possession and the drop ball is the big issue for the most part. Let's go to the Dogs now in this one. And before we get there, big congrats to Wigan Warriors for beating the Panthers over there. I watched the sort of the back 4 to 5 or so minutes. So by the time I was up and ready to go, but I'll be watching that shortly. And it was a really, really close match. Very wet over there as well, and potentially an injury to Sunya Taruva. So we'll hopefully hear more about that in the next little bit. But hopefully he is okay. Didn't look great. They were doing some testing on him. But yeah, hopefully there's some info on that in the next day anyway. But doggies, guys. So the big news out of this one is Jamin Salmon playing the 13 again, and Josh Curran coming through the middle rotation. So that's the big news here, and it makes a lot of sense, to be honest with you. If they could find Salmon being a slightly smaller body than that of Curran, if you're just looking at them on the field, and Curran's a bit more used to playing some middle there. Salmon's between 6 and the edge and the like. Curran obviously plays some good time on the edge across his career, but I think they can use him through the middle well, and it obviously cooks us for his fantasy production and the minutes that he's likely to get. But Salmon looks good, and I think the reason why they're doing that is just because they are short in the middles, and that beefs them up a bit, whereas Salmon can play that link role. He's obviously a good passer to the footy, being a half, and it's exactly what the Dogs need in this situation. And that's the big thing that you need to take out of this, guys. And you might think that Curran's a better edge or a better 13 than what he might be a 8 or a 10, a prop. But it's exactly what the Bulldogs need right now, is another middle forward. And that's the role he's going to serve. If there's injuries to an edge or something like that, then obviously he's going to go there, and then he might become relevant from there. But I think from round one, it's hard to pick Curran at 500k when he's going to be a 45 or so minute middle forward. And it's exactly what you're probably going to expect on here. Vil kick out probably like a 65 to 70 on a regular basis, with some games higher than that. And if Max King's going to be at least a 50-minute guy, you've got Sam Hughes in there likely in the 30s to 30s, let's just say, somewhere in there safely. It's very hard to see, when you've got Salmon playing somewhere near the 50-minute mark, you'd imagine, and he would be a must-have in our sides if he's starting in round one, guys. In that 13 position, we'll get him as an edge and mid-dual, which is hectic. So that's something to think of here. And let's get into the scores now, obviously. So Curran did get a try assist as well, so that was nice to Preston, which was good there. So Preston just showed his class again, guys. So obviously picked up a try, which was great. Defensively, 36 for 4 misses, so a little bit high on the misses side for him. But this whole team, the missed tackles range was pretty bad. Curtis Morin there, 22 for 5. In his stint there, you had Reid Marnie with 39 for 8. So some of these 9s, it's just what you expect from them. And I'm really, really keen to see how Robson looks this afternoon, and if he is missing a very limited amount of tackles or not, because that's a very telling factor, especially early on in the preseason. If you're missing a lot of tackles again when you're fresh, I think that's a bad sign. And Reid just, he runs out of line. He absolutely puts some hits on, and then the next one he just falls off a tackle, like they brush him off like with ease. So if he gets in a good position tackle-wise, he can make a really good one. But under 80% tackle efficiency, when you're making big tackles, you're just you're hemorrhaging too many points, that's for sure. So yeah, Reid not good on that front, which drops him down to a 29-point game. Maxi King worked hard in his minutes there. He sort of played close to that 50-minute mark, which worked great. 46 points for him, big run meters, tackles his heart out as always. 30 and 3, even him, that's kind of higher missed tackles. Pawasa there, 31 for 4. He played some decent minutes to get to that mark there, 28 fantasy points. I'm not super excited about him. I think he'll be one of their lower minute guys, especially in this game where Sam Hughes only played very limited minutes. He had that sort of 15-minute stint at the start and then came back right at the end there. So 41 run meters for him, but tackle efficiency at 14-1 was one of their best, obviously, with Kurt Mann 27-1. So expect Kurt to play some sort of, for sort of that 40-minute mark off the bench as well, and he scored well fantasy-wise, but not going to be one for our sides, that's for sure. Hutcho had a nice line break, guys. He also had a pretty bang average pass there on that right-hand side. The big thing to note with this one, guys, was the kick meter disparity. So in that first game, he kicked for a lot more. Second game, Burton had a big kicking number here at 522. So Sexton came on with 20 minutes to go. I think Hutcho should be locked into our sides, again, based on that defensive efficiency. If you checked out that Compare the Pair video, I went through him and everything on top of the running and the defense. So the tackles there is the base, and he should get to his break even just off that. Everything on top of that is gravy, and that does include any kick meters. But I think the 56 for him will be on the low end. He had some good kicks close to the line in that first game, and I suspect that they'll continue to use him that way. But Burton's long kicking game is wild. Like, he kicked 170 on the fly the other day, and it looked like he did it with ease. So he's an incredible player. Salmon, guys, big news with him. Obviously, the 50 run meters was solid, 37 in the fantasy points realm, and he had 32 tackles for 2 misses. So you expect somewhere in the 30s for him pretty comfortably. I think if his defense is up to scratch like that, and he can get in the mid 30s, lower sort of run meters in the 50s, and potentially just random tackle breaker and offload in there, and he can push up to 40s in some games. And at his price, it's just a ridiculous pick. He's a must-have if he is starting in the 13. Sam Hughes, again, more minutes should be available for him. Curran didn't play a huge amount of minutes either. With Sam Hughes, if he's named there in round 1, I suspect that he'll play a few more minutes than what he got. But even so, the 24 fantasy points in the lower minutes for him, he'll still make some money at worst. But I suppose he could be one to loop in round 1, just because we won't know the rotation, unfortunately. And this, I don't think this game showed exactly what that's going to look like either. Anyway, considering they played a few extra guys, not a whole heap, but in the low 20s, 23 or 24, I think, something like that, in this game. So that's that on that one. Much else to say. Burton I wouldn't be mucking around with. Bronson Xerri looked pretty solid, guys. 21 points for him though. Blake Wilson is a guy that seems to be really dominant at this point, but Xerri is just basically in run meters for him and 4 tackle breaks. Wilson the 7 tackle breaks, and it'll be hard to take out of this side, but I imagine with Kiraz coming back or Connor Tracy that could be a way that they go, but he looked really, really strong and doesn't deserve to be dropped out of this side. Bronson, the issue here, guys, is the 4 tackles and 2 misses. So you want your centers getting up near the 10 kind of mark. Don't look at Crichton's score, guys. He played 20 minutes and that was it. So picked up 0 fantasy points. Blake Taft just tries his heart out, but I still don't think he's the answer at fullback for them. They had no attack there, 6 points for the game when Sharkies were missing Hines and obviously didn't play all their guys for massive minutes. That's the place where I think they need to look at for sure. And they have Tracy coming back. They have Kiraz. So they have some guys to move around. But starting Crichton in the center position, you think that maybe he would have started at fullback if he was the guy that they were looking at. But all the mail says that he's a center at this point here. Let's go to the Storm and the Knights, guys. Before you do that, guys, we are closing the private group on Friday evening. 6 p.m. Sydney time is going to be closed. So if you are interested in that, get in that. All of the details are in the description. And we're getting up with those numbers now. It's been really, really awesome. Thank you for the support. And if you're not joining that, I really appreciate you guys watching all the videos. It absolutely helps me out. Make sure you're in all the leagues, playing head to head, playing Supercoach as well. And that's all I can ask for from you guys. So thank you so much for being here. Storm and the Knights are 28-10 effort there. And the Knights looked a little bit underdone and they have some work to do. The Storm, they looked great, and I'm very, very impressed with how they looked, and that was even including Sean Bloor not really being that focal point on the left at all, didn't play many minutes and didn't score very many points. So they also decided not to go to him much when he first came on the field. There's a few times that they kind of dummied to him or to his side, or just went to the guy next to him, and even sort of effort-wise and defensively, like getting chase on the kick chase and things like that, he just kind of jogged there. So I don't know if Bellamy will love what he saw, and I just don't think I see him starting in round 1, which means we can just leave him out for now and make decisions on the rest of the guys. Maybe it's Lukey or something like that we look at this afternoon in that game there for sure. But Storm, really, really good. I think most of their players looked awesome. Jonah Pezzett is a very, very good player of the future, and they've got an awesome backup. And he took control for a lot of this game, playing more minutes than that of Jerome Hughes. And you did see the majority of their guns, like Pap, they sort of played the first 20, played of the game, first 20 after halftime as well. And I'm super excited about one of these guys, which we'll get into in a second there as well, with a sim-in to Jacob Saifidi, which was a fun one, that's for sure. But looking here, and the funny one here is the Adam Elliott chat. And look, he didn't have the best game. He got a penalty, and he had one pass that went to ground. But outside of that, he looked fine. He didn't really run with a hell of a lot of vigor or anything like that. But he still, out of all of them, he played sort of about 45 minutes and got their most fantasy points. So he's going to be playing more minutes than that. He can't really play too much worse. So again, we're looking at these guys from a fantasy point of view. He's going to work into the season as well, finally being fit and being able to show what he's done. So the slander on Adam Elliott in this game, I obviously hadn't watched it until this morning actually, and the amount of not hate but distaste towards Adam Elliott in this game was pretty hilarious after watching the game. Like, you would have thought that he literally had the worst game anyone's ever had in their career, just based on the chat. And obviously fantasy wise, he's funny. He made 27 tackles for 1 miss, so wasn't bad defensively at all. The one penalty was just like a normal penalty in a game, okay? And then one pass where he kind of like half no looked it and it went out behind. But all of them were pretty average, the Knights. They were bang average. And, Tyson Gamble had a couple of bad passes, and I haven't had too much on him apart from Cog is obviously fighting for his spot. So Elliott, I don't think there's too much to worry about. He hasn't shown me why he's a must-have of a pick for myself, but I still don't think it's an issue there at all with Elliott. So we'll start with that one. Ponga looked great, guys. We'll kick off with the Knights. Ponga played the first half of the footy and got 30 points. So if you are looking at him, he will be a top tier option from the top of this season. But the main worry there was the Knights looked pretty clunky. They were up against a good team in the Storm, but I do think that the Warriors were better than what the Storm look. But overall, you're looking at a Storm being a top 4 team. Knights probably a little bit outside of that at this point, just based from what I saw. And you're looking at sort of the first 20 minutes in these games, and that's where you can tell that how well a team is on. And the Storm were a much better side. But he got his line break try assist and did a bunch of good things. Got a turnover tackle in there as well. Kicked one of the goals, but 118 run meters in the first half of footy with a line break try assist, 5 tackle breaks in that, a couple off that run. Is exactly what you want to see there with him. No tackles made. So yeah, it was a pretty solid hit out for Kalen. Tuala scored a good try, so I think he'll stick in that spot. Bradman Best had a nice one off Ponga. Marzu looks solid, but didn't play huge minutes. Not many fantasy points for him. Again, don't really look at him to start. Gagai a lower one as well, so hopefully he can start pretty slow and then we can get him a bit later because he's going to be great. But you look at the points in this game, guys, and Knights were pretty average. Actually, let's check out their completion rate. And they had 10 errors compared to 12 for Storm, so completion rate very, very similar. Again, time of possession was way lower, so 50 minutes. If we're comparing that to the last game, guys, which was 53.5. So yeah, 3.5 minutes less ball in play. Gave you a good reason to see why that these fantasy points numbers are down, right? So that's something to note. Terrible scores from Gamble, Hastings, Jacob Saifidi, Crossan with 12, Leo Thompson 21. So Lucas out there at 26, but I just think, Kai Pearce-Paul we got to see and he looked pretty good. So I think that he'll be a bench guy, Kai Pearce-Paul, and he'll be taking some minutes off Lucas. I don't think Lucas is going to care that he plays 50 or 55, considering it's his sort of it'll be his first full year of footy for the Knights there. So yeah, again, low scores across the board. Cogger came in, looked solid. I think, he's definitely putting pressure on Gamble's spot in this side. Elliott, their top scorer, obviously there. Kai Pearce-Paul, a nice offload, a couple of good runs in that. Really, really helped him out, but 50 run meters, a couple of tackle breaks with that offload. And defensively, 18 tackles for a miss, which is really, really good. Exactly what you would have wanted. He had a kind of a hip check when Hughes was kicking the footy penalty. But overall, no issues at all with Kai Pearce-Paul. He's just very expensive for us at fantasy at 520. Along with Morgan Spithies, who we'll get to see this afternoon, which will be plenty of fun as well. I'll get to watch those games live this afternoon, which will be great also. And it's probably really all I've got to say on the Knights. I don't see much else changing. You got Daniel Saifiti there right at the bottom, picked up 129 metres. It's exactly what you want to see from him. Running the footy hard, getting 62 post-contact in this one. Yeah, that's probably all we've got to say on the Knights. Let's move it on to the Storm, and the man I'm super excited about, and it's going to be hard pressed to see him moving out of my side at the moment. I haven't looked at my team since these trials this weekend, but can we fit him in? And that's Harry Grant. He was incredible. Just over 40 minutes of play, I believe, exactly. He didn't come back on the end. So, yeah, it was the same with that sort of 20 at the start, 20-ish in that second stanza, and 55 fantasy points for him. The biggest news out of this one, guys, obviously running the footy beautifully, picked up that try, picking his spots. He kicked one from dummy half as well, going for a 40-20. So if that, if he can stick to one or two of those a game, I think that's going to be great. But defensively, guys, was his massive one. 27 tackles, 0 misses. So if he can drop those missed tackles down that he had last year, he is going to be an absolute fantasy goldmine. If we're not picking up Law, it's very, very hard not to put Harry Grant in your side, even against the better teams there. He's still going to have to run the footy. He may not get all the attacking stats, but if defensively he can hold his own, he's going to make bulk tackles against these better teams, right? And Knights have some guys that can get a lot of tackle breaks. The Dane Gaggais of the world and stuff. And in previous games against a team like the Knights, yes, granted they would be on more in other games, but he's going to have big missed tackles against those types of teams because of the Dane Gaggais, the Pongers, and the like. And in this one, to see that was the biggest thing I was looking for in this game. And obviously him running a little bit out of dummy half. And obviously we want big minutes out of him. And if we can get that, it's going to be very hard pressed to not have him in your side, considering he obviously started well last year against some lesser teams, granted. But Harry granted. Absolutely throwing out puns and I'm not even realizing it. But the buy in round 4, I don't think is a big issue if you're having whoever, if it's the Eels hooker, or if it's like a Robson or a Brandon Smith or something like that, you can cover that round 4 very, very easily. So I think Grant is a very clear buy if you can get up to him. If you can't get up to him, that's fine. I completely see why you can leave him out, but he could get into the 60s by Origin, and then you can move him on if you want from there. So that's what I'm looking at with Harry Grant. Guys, it sounds like Trent Leora is fine. He had a bit of a thumb or wrist issue, but seems that they said sort of a few minutes later that it seems like he's fine, which is good. Kane Bradley did his thing, guys. He wasn't too exciting on that edge. It's very hard to notice him, to be honest with you. Didn't run with too much vigor or anything like that or stand out. But 17 tackles for no misses. If he's starting in round 1, it's going to be hard not to take him either. He's played the last couple of trials, so he didn't have to play big minutes in this one, but 57 run meters there for 22 post, which was good. The big thing there, guys, was Eli Katoa. He looked huge, so strong. Got a try off Jerome Hughes. Again, didn't play massive minutes, saw that 40-minute mark with the other guys there, and did an awesome job. The guy that we, big one here was Tui Kamakamika, who is Fijian, and really, really cool to see him that whole week that they had prep-wise, and he ran for 171 meters and really showed out, so that was good. Good to see there for sure. As I said, Jonah Pezzett looked great. Pap, guys, only the 40 minutes, kind of nothing really went too right for him. He got a shiner under the eye, looks very pretty. No goal kicking, clearly in this one now with Nick Meaney goal kicking, Jonah Pezzett goal kicking as well. Obviously, Jonah unlikely to be there with Munster coming back, but Meaney kicking those. He did miss one, very close from the sideline. So Pap not kicking. Look, as a starter in our sides, I don't think you can avoid him just because of the upside that he possesses, and he could go absolutely nuts. But good to see him get a couple of hitouts here in the trials. I think that's going to be very helpful. Obviously, coming up against some good sides, but I think again, it's hard to keep him out under 500k when he can be a guy that you'd be wasting a trade on. I think where you can start with him and not have to worry about making that trade. Liera looked solid as a link man, guys. I just don't think we can slot him in our side, not knowing the type of minutes that he's going to get, because Josh King can just move into that 13 role straight after that. Okay, let's finish up with the Wars and the Dolphins. And as I said, guys, I think you're very hard pressed to say that Warriors are anywhere other than a top 4 looking side, because they're incredible. I think they were better than last year. They will be same, if not better, than last year with their additions, and everything looked the same. Metcalf looked better. You got Kurt Capewell looking great, looked really, really fit, and you got Roger playing like an absolute superstar. Rogers' points, guys, a lot of them came in the second half when he moved to fullback, so that is something to note in this one, but everyone played really, really well. And obviously the Dolphins there, you can see 3 tries in the second half, so it was a very even second half tries-wise, but the Warriors were clearly on top. Dolphins defensively did a good enough job for the most part, and we're able to hold them out at certain times where I think other teams would have had 30 put on them in the first half, so that, commend them on that. And they kind of fought back in the second half, which was good, but you did see, Johnson go off, obviously Metcalf kicking from then on in that 63rd minute. Dolphins didn't look bad by any stretch, guys. I think Warriors just a really, really top tier side, and the Dolphins will be good this year. But a big shout out, and so sad to see the ACL injury from Tom Gilbert. Terrible, terrible news for the game, for him, for the Dolphins. Obviously, he's an absolute leader for that side, and just be like seeing Tohu Harris on the other side going down with an ACL or something like that. It's super sad, but even sadder just because Gilbert didn't get to play more than the second half of the season last year after cooking his shoulder in Origin. So it's not what you want in a preseason trial, and we didn't see too many ACLs last year, and hopefully that's not something that's going to continue happening for the rest of the season there. Very, very sad on that front. Just go to the team stats, guys. You're looking at the time in possession a little bit better in this one, in the 53s to 54s, with completion rates up at 78 for the Wars and 74 for the Dolphins, but that's still 8 errors and 11 errors respectively for those sides, and Dolphins having a little bit more time in possession. So let's go down to the Warriors to kick things off, guys. Tane Tuapiki looked really, really good, but I think that's on the back of Wade Egan absolutely dominating this trial. I think he was brilliant in and around the ruck. His ability to, shift his body one way or straighten up and then hit someone short on either side, usually with some type of no-look Josh Schuster style pass, but which actually hits the mark and gets them pushing through the middle, unlike Schuster for the most part. But anyway, Tane Tuapiki, really, really good. 27 fantasy points in his time out there, 114 run meters, picked up 3 tackle breaks as well. And this is something that we've grown to expect from Tane. The chance news, guys, is a bit all over the shop. Listening to NRL Physio in the Patreon there, he was kind of saying that he listened to that interview that Webster did, and he didn't mention once about a round 4 return. So not sure if that's smoke and mirrors, guys, but just be aware of that. I think you can avoid Tane on that in that sense there. Roger got 197 run meters, guys, for really, really big tackle break numbers. I think it was 8 or something. I don't know why I've lost that now. Where am I? Yeah, 8. With a try assist, couple of line break assists as well. So Roger was great. He looks awesome, guys. I think at over 600k for fantasy is very, very expensive, unfortunately. Moving to Sean Johnson, he looked just as good as last year. Obviously didn't have to run too much. There was some news of him kind of hurting his ankle? Yeah, whatever it was, in the preseason a week or so ago. And for him to play this trial and play decent minutes and do a great job, looking awesome, was exciting news. And he'll be there round 1, which is great. Luke Metcalf will also be there round 1, guys. For the most part, had a great game. He did pass the ball into Jackson Ford's nose at one point. But outside of that, he looked electric. The shape that they had both sides was awesome. 39 fantasy points for him was great. Obviously, the 12 tackles for 1 miss, and his running of the footy, couple of try assists out there as well, which was good. And probably could have had a little bit more if he just cleaned up a couple of things. Johnson will be top tier again, guys. 52 fantasy points. Obviously, with his goal kicking, the kicking in general play, the defensive stats, it's all there for Johnson, and he'll be great again. It's all there for Adam Fanua-Blake again if he can score the same amount of tries, but I suspect a little bit of regression. Wade Egan, I said, was good. Barnett, guys, 64 points for him. Picked up a try as well. So 136 meters run for him and 35 tackles for 0 misses. He will be a guy that will score well this year in fantasy, but he was also priced fairly high at that. Jackson Ford was solid at his 40. We expect that from him. Kurt Capewell, 52. Really, really good. Could be, sort of a 50-point keeper for sure. But I think with him, he picked up 4 tackle breaks as well, which I don't think is going to be a regular occurrence from him. And expect somewhere in the 40s as always for Kurt. Tohu Harris at 54. Looked great again, guys, as always. At the start of the season, he's like a 60 average type of guy. He makes a shitload of tackles at 42 for no misses, as always, and does a cracking job. So keep him in mind. Leah Ta'ua. Had a really good try as well at the end. And just again, the second in charge, second in line or third in line for the center position there, which is great. And we'll finish this one off, guys, with the Dolphins. As I said, it wasn't a bad showing at all. I think the Warriors were just better. And they'll be happy enough with the trial. Obviously, would have wanted to be ahead of where the Warriors are at this point. But they'll take a lot out of it. Plenty of improvement. They did make a lot of changes to start this game. We had a bunch of the guys off the bench. I think Ray Stone started. Jake Averillo started. Actually, that's right. Yep. Center, Locker says it all here at least. Connolly started with Felice not playing in this one. Connolly started on the left. And you had Aiken on the right, which was good. Obviously, not good. Sorry, good for Connolly. Not good for Aiken, is what I was meant to say. Aiken, with Felice being a right-sided player, you think if Aiken was going to start in round one, that he would be there on that left side. The big thing with Connolly, guys, and NRL Physio was saying this as well, but I saw it last week. He looked great. And coming into this, he had footwork as well, coming off that knee. And the main worry for Brian there was the fact that with those types of injuries, the change of direction and stuff is a bit of a stressor. And at this point, he looks absolutely incredible, and it's not something you need to worry about at all with Connolly. He's come back, fit and firing, and he will likely be there to start. So I'd probably just side on be on the cautious side with that man. If you were going to be looking to select Aiken, have a secondary option, whether you can go up to Penasini, go down to Ramian, go down to Simonson, who I'm interested in. Those kind of guys, obviously, there. In that one, you saw some decent run meters again from Jared Wallace. It's going to be hard to see him not in that side. And obviously, that starting side changed from what it looked like in the team list. So, the bit of smoke and mirrors from Bennett. Obviously, the sad news from Gilbert. It's hard to see who would actually get into that 13 role. It probably, obviously, shuffles a few things around and gets Cody Nikorima around the side a little bit more. He had a nice try assist in this one as well. So who would likely play the 13 role? You'd imagine Flegler sticks in that starting prop role. Could it be like a Kenny Bromwich, a bit like last year? That's something to think about. Could it be the Ray Stone starting in that lock role in this game anyway? A few things to think about on that front. Obviously, with Tom Gilbert not starting and then coming on and hurting himself, it's super sad. It's probably what you're going to need to think about is who's going to get that 13 role. Does Aiken get it? There's a few interesting thoughts on that one. We'll have to find out in team lists after next week. And we're so close to the Vegas games, guys. We are a week away today, which is absolutely incredible. Super excited for that. But Connolly, we spoke about him. Aiken, he was great. Anyway, guys, we know what he's going to provide. 43 points there. He had big tackle numbers there at 30-1. Miss, ran the footy 56 meters. He gets his tackle breaks. He does bits and pieces on a regular basis for him, which is awesome. Jeremy Marshall-King, guys, very low points in this one, 28, and he played huge minutes. And tackle numbers, terrible. 37, makes 7 misses. So not exactly what you want to be looking for, and you cannot take him on those numbers alone. Obviously, it is a trial. Something to think about, but he should be defending much better than that through the middle. The Warriors are a good team through the middle, and they can catch people out. And they definitely caught Marshall-King out because he was the only guy with big missed tackle numbers. Obviously, all these guys down here, 2s, 3s, 4s, but everyone else outside of that is 1s and 2s. And for Jeremy Marshall-King, their leader, to have 7 missed tackles, that was not good enough, and he'll be wanting to improve on that, that's for sure. Flegler was pretty good, guys. Obviously, 133 meters. He picked up a couple of offloads in that as well. And 31 makes for 2 misses is pretty solid for Fleg. So if you are looking at him, there's potential for good minutes or extra a couple of minutes now, and him playing closer to the sort of 50-odd minute role. But that's what he played in this one, 56 minutes for 45 points. And is he going to be playing 56 on a regular basis? I personally don't see it, but I wouldn't hold it. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say that he is a definite to not play the sort of 55 minutes, but that's what we worked out he needed to have some value, the 55 minutes. So if there's any talk on where he's going to play or the big minutes he's going to play, then we'll learn more about that. But for him to play huge minutes in this one definitely shows something that they're trying to get him to a higher minute role, that's for sure. Otherwise, he wouldn't bother playing in the 56 in a trial game. It's not like it's a round one game. If Gilbert was to go down early and someone needs to pick up the slack, it was a trial game, and they had heaps of guys that they could throw in out there. Tessie looks solid, guys. 116 meters, Asako 146. I think you avoid Osako to kick things off. Hammer, the 7 fantasy points there, not great. He's not someone that I'm excited about starting with. Yeah, we've seen at the beginning of last year, he needed that almost one, I think it was over 1 a game tries for him to score really well. And I'm not going to hold my breath and pick him and hope for lots of tries, especially at the start. They could start a bit slower than they did last year. By looking at this trial, you'd suggest that's the case. But they do have some lighter opposition in the first sort of 5 or 6 games compared to that of the Wars, that's for sure. Jack Bostock, 22 guys. Herbie Farnworth was off the bench as well, so just keep that in mind for Herbie. He had his big trial last week. Bostock, 22, picked up a try again. But good run meters at 141 there with only the 1 tackle break. Obviously a couple of one missed tackle at that. And an error, I believe, wherever the errors are. 1 error, yep. So that's that. 2 handling errors, 1 error. Interesting. Is handling error just if they lose it backwards or something? I'm not sure. How does that work? Anyway, it's probably all you need to... Whoops, we're gone. All right, that'll do anyway. We moved along to that. So, yeah, thanks, guys, for jumping into this one. It's obviously a bit of a longer one, but I think it's absolutely needed and deserved to get plenty of eyeballs on and thoughts on who the guys we want to be looking at in our sides ready for round 1. Obviously, the team list come out in 2 days for the Vegas games, and you want to be locking in just those guys and then being very fluid with the rest of your side is exactly how you want to look at this one. Make sure you check out the socials, guys, TikTok and Instagram. Getting ready. I'll be posting on there throughout the season as well. And check out the podcast if you're a podcast guy, and go from there, guys. Have a good one.